Mousetrap Car, the advanced version. Alright, so when you first open up Autodesk Inventor, okay, this is the startup screen. So what we're going to do is this, we're going to make a new file, okay, and we're going to hit new. And when this first pops up, we're going to have to choose what we're going to do. So here's a standard part, here's a drawing. So this is what we'd normally do if we're going to do something in 3D for the 3D printer, but we're doing something 2D that's going to get cut out on the laser cutter, so we're going to use a standard drawing. Okay, and so this is what it's going to open up. It's going to open up this standard sheet. It has a border and has this stuff over here that a drafter would use. We don't need any of that stuff, so we'll get rid of that in a second. So we'll right-click on this. Let's get rid of we're going to delete this border, and we'll get rid of this thing as well. Okay, so here's our sheet. We're going to create a sketch. Okay, so we clicked on this button to create a sketch, and here we are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my wheel. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a circle, and I want to draw a circle from the center point, not a tangent. So I'll start like right here in the middle, and I'll start right there, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and you can see those numbers. I want my wheel to be 6 inches. Okay, I type in 6 and then I hit enter. Okay, so it makes the outside of my wheel 6 inches, and you can see it added this dimension to it. Alright, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my axle, because there's going to be a axle that goes through the center of this wheel, and it has to stick on tight. And so I'm using my calipers right now. My axle is 0.125 of an inch, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this hand, and I'm going to grab this and put it right in the middle, and then I'm going to scroll on my mouse. There's a little scrolly wheel, and I'm going to go in. There's the center point. So I'm going to do another circle, and I'm going to click exactly the same point, and now this circle where my axle is going to go through is I'm going to do it just a little bit bigger than the actual axle, so it's 0.125, so I'm going to make it 0.126, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so that's the hole that it's going to go through. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to realize that, okay, I do not need a solid piece of wood for this thing. What I need to do is I need to cut out most of this stuff in here. So I'm going to cut out each of these 4 little sections here. So I'm going to start off with a line. So I'm going to go to the line tool, and I'm going to draw. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'll draw another circle next. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to cut out a big chunk of this. So I'm going to do another circle. I'm going to start at the center. I'm going to zoom in here so I can see the center point. Okay, so I'm going to click, and then I'm going to scroll wheel out. There we go. So this one I'm going to make it, the outside one is 6. I'm going to make this one probably 5.5. Okay, and that looks about right to me. Okay, so I've got my 2 circles. Now I'm going to draw some lines. So I'm going to draw my first line. I'll just start it right here, and I'm going to draw it straight down to here, to this circle. Now what I need to do though is I'm going to hit escape because I'm done drawing lines. I'm going to zoom in a little bit right here. So I want this thing to be about 0.125 inches. So I'm going to do a dimension here, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to do a dimension from here to that center point, and click, and then I'm going to say, alright, I want that line to be, I'm going to erase this, I'm going to say I'm going to want it to be 0.125 of an inch, and you can see it scoochied that thing over. And then I'm going to draw another line so you can get the hint of how I'm going to do it. I'll do one more, and then I'm going to kind of zoom ahead for you guys. So I'm going to draw another line from here straight down to here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit escape, and then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to dimension that from the center point as well. Okay, so I'm going to go to a dimension. I'll say I want from here to that center point, drag back out, click, and then I double click on it to adjust it, and I want that to be 0.125 as well. Oops, it didn't like it. I put an extra decimal point in there. Give me a backspace, enter. Okay, and so now I'm going to zoom out, and you can see what I have so far. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a more fully done version, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so you've seen I've opened up one that's a little bit more done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say edit. I want to edit that sketch. And now it's back to being editable. Okay, so what I'm doing on these things is I'm adding circles and then I'm deleting stuff. So basically, I added this circle. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So we'll drag this over here. So I took what existing geometry I had and I added this circle, and then I'm going to go to trim, and I'll say, oh, I can trim this part right here. Maybe. Okay, so I'll trim that, and I'll trim this, and then I'll trim this, and so I've made this nice geometry that I can use. Okay, so let me show you how to go about doing that. We'll add one up here, and we'll zoom in. Okay, so to start off, we'll go to a circle. I'll draw a circle, and I'm going to make it 0.5 of an inch. Okay, then I'm going to hit escape, and then I'm going to click. So I move my mouse until I see that I click, and then I grab the point I want to move, which is here, and I'll just drag the circle right there and there. Release. Okay, and then I'm going to go to trim, and I'll see if I can trim both things first. I can trim this, trim that, so I'm going to trim this, I'm going to trim this, and I'm going to trim this, and you can see how you make nice rounded things. So I'm going to keep adding those until I finish the wheel and get a nice look of the wheel. Okay, so now as soon as you get a few things done. Okay, so by the way, you should be doing some of this. Okay, so make sure that at this point you have opened up Inventor. So hit pause and open up Inventor. Okay, you should have made a new drawing. Okay, and then you should have saved it. Okay, so make sure you're saving it in your folder with your name on it, with a name that makes sense, something like Advanced Mousetrap Brian Miller. And every day I save it as a new version, so I have a bunch of backups. So make a backup copy every day. If you don't know how to make a backup, ask me. Okay, and then finally, you have to select each thing. So I'm going to hit escape. You have to select each thing and right-click it and go to Properties. And in order for it to cut out on the laser cutter, you have to change the line type to continuous. You have to change the line weight to 0.001, and you have to change the color to be red. Okay, and that'll be a cut on the laser cutter. If you want it to be an etch, then change this to blue. Okay, and you have to do that for every single line. Okay, so make sure you do all that stuff. Open this, save this, draw some stuff, and then when you're done, you can finish the sketch